Good afternoon. Welcome to today's edition of the Coal Scene. I'm Chris Hamilton with the Coal Association, and I want to welcome you to today's program. We have a special program today, a little diversion from the usual program that we sponsor here, and we have, for that matter, we have an unusual guest. We have with us Mr. Burl Jones, who is the sculpture behind the miners' statue out on the Capitol grounds. And Burl, as you well know, is a well-known sculptor, has a lot of his work displayed around the state and around the country. Has done some things for Marshall University and other state entities. And boy, I guess it's been 13, 14 years ago now. We started out, maybe 15 years ago, designing and creating a statue of a coal miner to place here on the Capitol grounds, to just give a lot of emphasis to mining and the credit that miners deserve, and all those that have worked within our industry, past, present, and future. So it's a remarkable piece of art. And as I indicated, we have the creator and sculptor of that piece of art, Mr. Burl Jones, here with us in the studio. Burl's a state resident, West Virginia University student athlete, where he excelled in both the classroom and on the football field there, and has a place in Montana where he does a lot of his work, and also still keeps his home here in nearby Sissonsville, West Virginia. Burl, it's just so great to see you again, and to welcome you to our program.
Thanks. It's fun to be here.
Well, why don't you, if you can, maybe give us just a little snapshot of your background, what got you into with your work and the bronze sculptures that you're so famous for.
Well, my background primarily in education was in dentistry. I graduated from dental school at WVU in 1966, and in dentistry we learned to cast and handle metals on a very small scale, obviously. But and then after dental school, I went to Montana in the U.S. Public Health Service, and that is when I was exposed to bronze art. There were artists working in those days there, and I had never even known what a bronze sculpture was in West Virginia. But I was exposed to that, and then when I came back after being in the service, when I came back, I kind of nurtured this thought for several years before I finally started kind of working with it myself, and I did some casting on my own, and it didn't take me long to realize that the casting part was not a job that I need to be doing myself. It's a job for professional foundries, and so it evolved, and one thing led to another, and eventually I decided that I had to give up either dentistry or the art, and I'd been a dentist for 25 years at that point, and I decided to go ahead and just concentrate on the art, and it's been fun, and that's the best thing I can say about it. I mean, I enjoyed dentistry. I was a good dentist. As a matter of fact, I graduated top in my class at WVU, and I had a very successful dental practice here in West Virginia. And I practiced, when I moved to Montana, I practiced part-time for 10 years. We moved there in '82. I practiced there until '92. And at age 50, I gave it up, and since then I've been doing just the art.
Well, it sounds like, after a fairly successful career in dentistry, 20 years or so, you started to make the transition, devote more and more time to your passion and less time to dentistry.
My first castings I did around 1980. And like I say, I moved to Montana in '82 and worked there, but I combined the two professions for 10 years. And then I gave up dentistry and concentrated on the art in '92. And I really didn't get rolling much in the art until I gave up dentistry. And we had our own gallery there, and it's been fun. It's been good.
I remember, I think my first exposure to your work was when they opened up Tamarack. Mm-hmm. I know you had a display there, and I remember one piece that stands out, amongst your work, and it was I mean, it was just talked about around town and around the state by everyone, and that was the fisherman. It was the
Table.
coffee table with the fisherman and the glass top being the water.
Right. Yeah. That's kind of been the Tamarac's symbol. They're kind of their flag piece or whatever through the years, and I think right now they have the last one in the edition still there. So when that one is sold, that table will not be available anymore. But they've sold several of them through Tamarac. Yeah, that's and a good friend of mine here in Charleston was modeled for that table.
Really?
Yeah, Dr. Dave Santrock. I don't know if
Oh,
you know.
okay. I do.
Yeah.
I do know.
He
Dave.
came. I needed a model. I asked him one day. I said, "Would you come over and sit for me for just a little while? Let me see some." I didn't tell him I was actually going to do him because I needed to see how where the wrinkles were and how the boots were going to fit and this sort of thing, you know. And so he was kind of surprised, but he told me, he says, "I don't look anywhere near that old." And I told him, I said, "Well, wait a few years and it'll match you just perfect."
I thought you were going to say, and that fish wasn't nearly that big you caught either. But,
Yeah, he and I fished some together, and we've never caught fish that big.
I remember Dave, and I know he was well known around town. He fixed a
sure.
lot of local needs. A
absolutely.
lot of athletes have visited
Right.
Dave
Oh, absolutely.
during
yeah.
his career. You know, fast forward a little bit when we were contemplating, and I was part of that original group that was tasked with spearheading the design and placement of the statute and the funding for it. And you know, I take a little, you know, throughout my career, it's one of the things I'm very, very proud of, having been part of that and having been part of the team that worked together.
Great,
And
yeah.
the association with you and Gary Young with G&G Builders
Right, did the
here
base.
locally, who did the base. And you know, the statute's going to be here forever, hopefully. And,
Hopefully.
And when I pass it, I just I pause, I stop. It's just such a great piece of work here, and everybody that's ever been involved in mining ought to just be so proud, and I know they are, just from my interaction with so many people over the years. Like I said, it's already been
Long time.
14 years, I believe, that it's been there. It's hard to believe.
It's hard to believe, yeah.
It really is.
Well, it's nice of you to say those things, and you know, it was a moment of pride for me too. There's been a few things when I started doing the art. There were a few things that objectives that I dreamed of, but didn't know I would ever have. I never dreamed that I would actually have a piece on the Capitol grounds, which it just really does me really good to have that, and I'm very happy with that. And the other thing that I really wanted was hoped for was a piece on the WVU campus, which recently, as you're probably aware, I did on the new Alumni Center up
Yes.
there. I have a monument up there, and so. You know, I don't have any. I'm happy that I've achieved those things, and I don't have anything else on my bucket list that I'd really like to do in the art. You know, I continue to work, and I'm still active with it, but I'm very happy with what's happened.
Well, those are historic in a lot of ways.
Well, yeah, and that's kind of the beauty of what I do. You know, most of the people that look at these monuments don't have any idea who did them. And I realize that. So Burl Jones doesn't mean anything and will never mean a lot to most people. But except to me, I know that it's there, and it makes me happy to know that it's there and it's going to be there. I mean, you know, I doubt if very many people can walk over and see a Lincoln statue in front of the Capitol and know that Bernie Weeper did that piece.
Right. Right.
And most of the people don't even remember who Bernie was. I do, but a lot of people don't.
Well, we were sure to put your name on that plaque, and
Oh, yeah, of
no,
course.
it's
Well, the name is there, but they
it's
don't
very
bother to look at
deserving.
that too much. Yeah.
But yeah, I understand. You know, there's several people. When we were thinking of who can we contract with, I want to mention Vic Green, your friend, my friend,
Sure.
Vic Green, because he was coordinating.
He
a lot
did.
Of this,
He
and
worked
I think
with
he was
me.
part of your student athlete group at
He was.
Morgantown.
Right. Well, you know, his uncle, Vic Sr., hired us when I was in college. He hired us in the summers to work. And so through Vic's family, it was important for me all the way through, really.
Fred Tucker was my counterpart with the coal forum at the time. I was representing management, and Fred was representing organized labor, and he's still very much active today. And I want to mention Fred because he was also part of that team. And I think it was Vic one day indicated, before we go much further, we ought to at least consult with my friend Burl Jones. And as soon as he did, and then we started talking about some of your work, and it was just it just all fit so well together.
I'm thankful you did, and it's very appropriate, I think, to get West Virginians to do West Virginia projects. It bothers me a little bit, regardless of whether it's art or whether it's a construction project or whatnot, when you bring outside people in. When you have West Virginians that are capable of doing it, you see it quite a bit, obviously, and it's too bad that it is. But I'm thankful that I was able to do that, thanks to you and to Vic and.
Well, again, it was just such a great team, and I also want to credit Governor Wise, who at the time was just so supportive. In fact, I remember the first meeting we had with him. I'm not sure if you were there or not, but we had this idea of and we told him no state funding would be involved. We would raise the fund through private donors, and I said we were thinking of, and I remember there was a space up around on the outside of the cultural center, up on the top there, and he said, that space may work, but I'd like a more prominent place, to his credit, and that they're in the place where it's where it's situated permanently. That was actually Governor Wise's selection, where you had to walk by it if you were entering the Capitol from that direction.
Well, he was very supportive and very gracious. I've always thought, I didn't know Governor Wise until we went through that, and I thought, man, this guy is a nice man. And he was so nice over that whole thing.
He really was, and he hosted us on a couple of occasions. We did the prototype, if you remember.
Right,
He showed it at the mansion just to give it some publicity and try to jumpstart the funding for it. Which ensued over the next 6 or 9 months, perhaps. We have a short video piece that we want to show. That'll show the statute and the plaques that are on it.
So this is one of the plaques showing the different stages and different types of mining.
That's the piece that shows surface mining, which is a big part of the state's.
Right, and I wasn't aware until today that generated some controversy, but. It's interesting. There's always people that want to criticize something, but it bothers me a little bit when people want to change history just because, they don't like. But you can't, unfortunately.
There's longwall mining. That's an underground method that's become real popular here in the state.
Right. Well, I wasn't familiar with some of those things because I'd never been in a coal mine until we did this. And I think you provided me, either you or Vic provided me with a lot of materials showing how these things are done and all. And so I learned a lot about how mining was done in this process myself. And of course, one of the panels that I did was I had to show the history of it, where the pick and shovel.
Shovel, surface, longwall mining, other underground methods.
Right. My father-in-law, that would certainly have fit him because he had small mines and he used little tiny ponies or donkeys to pull his carts out, and he dug coal and sold house coal and to some of the Carbide and DuPont here too.
That's a great picture.
That's the picture now, right? With the flowers covering up the panels, pretty much. But.
Early on there was a couple of just rough, not renditions really, but just sketches, ideas people had, and it was everything from, we wanted Big John, we wanted the individual to, to be a picture of strength and good health, just what you think of a miner.
That's right.
Broad-shouldered individuals, the rougher cut kind of person, and
that's what I tried to depict.
You absolutely nailed that one.
Yeah.
No question about it.
Yeah. A guy with pride, a guy with conditioning, with stature, and with a strong jaw. You know, I mean, everything you can think of kind of a heroic sort of guy. You know, all miners aren't like that, but we like to picture them that way for sure, and a lot of them are.
They absolutely are. And when you think about the guy from years gone by,
Oh yeah.
you know, the guy with the pick and shovel and the guy working alongside the mules, you know, he was certainly, you know, somebody that, you know, you just recognize because of his physical.
Well, I can't imagine the physical part of some of that early mining where they're laying on their side in 3 feet of coal, digging and, you know, and drilling for shooting and getting the coal out. Can't imagine.
The idea, I remember you're proposing the idea of, you know, initially we were trying to make the statute, the concept was to make the statute to where he would appeal to surface mining, underground mining, and I remember the day that you proposed having those
different
panels depict different, you know, types of mining, and you know, when I look at that statute today and those panels, I mean, it's just such a gorgeous piece of art. It really is. And
I wanted people to be able to, a miner or a miner's family, to be able to walk to this thing and be able to relate to it and say, this is what my dad did, you know, or my brother did, and that was the main reason I wanted to depict all the different phases of mining, you know, the historical as well as the modern approach to it. And yeah, that was all in my mind. I mean, that was the objective for those panels. I like those panels. As a matter of fact, it's almost his favorite to me as the miner himself. Yeah.
No question about it. And again, I think you know, it serves as a memorial piece,
right?
You know, to those that have lost their lives in mining.
Oh, sure.
You know, a new miner, an apprentice miner aspiring for a career in mining. I think he relates to the you know, to the statute. You know, the guy that's been there 20 years, and we have so many miners, and I think the inscription on the front recognizes that, you know, mining's played such an important role in our state's economy.
Oh, yes.
You know, it's taken us through 2 world wars as a nation. It's powered us through the industrial age, and it makes reference to that. You know, on the inscription on the front panel, talks about you know, miners that have dedicated their lives or a career providing the state and the nation with low cost, reliable electricity.
Yeah.
You know, much of the same messaging that we talk about today.
Yeah, it's a shame we're being attacked for that message today. You know, it's. You know, the attacks aren't real. They aren't very realistic. They you know, they're obviously everybody has an idea for something better, but I don't think there is something better, at least not on the short term. And
No, I don't believe so either. And that's one of the things that we say in a lot of these, you know, public policy discussions or debates. You know, there's a time out here in the future where there's going to have to be a transition from coal. To other means of generating electricity.
You know, the future of coal might not be at all for generating electricity. It might be for other purposes. I mean, there are building blocks in coal for a multitude of products that can be built, just like from natural gas and oil and whatnot. And I've always said, you know, maybe 100 or 200 years in the future, people will say, "Can you believe they actually burned that?" You know, because it'll be so valuable for other things.
Well, you know, as the price of coal increase, you know, you provoke the thought that we say you might get coal in your stocking if you misbehave.
Yeah.
Well, when coal went up to $50, $60, $70 a ton here a decade ago, you were going to get coal in your stocking if you behaved, not necessarily misbehaved.
Yeah. What is it now?
Well, it's come back down. We're somewhere between, you know, high 30s to high 40s. There's a margin there, southern West Virginia, northern, whether it's coal that's used for steam or generation of electricity versus steel making metallurgical coals.
Sure. So I presume the price is okay. Is it just that the demand is decreasing in volume? Or?
Well, a couple of things. We have a very compressed market because of the conversion of some of the utilities to to natural gas.
Sure.
And the whole renewable wind and solar have both expanded, their volumes that are used to generate electricity. Plus, you have this pressure being generated to use less and less fossil fuels.
Oh, sure.
From you. I tell you, that's the one thing we've never experienced. As you well know, we've always had our fill of challenges.
Oh, sure.
And when you have weak economies or mild weather, you tend to use less coal. And there's always been fluctuations, and thus, you've always had the cycles. But we've never had a president, just to be, just real candid, we've never had a president using all of his resources to obstruct or restrict coal use, coal production like we have today.
I know.
I mean, he's really wanting to make his mark on, I think, jumpstarting the country to a different form of baseload power.
He wants that his legacy, doesn't he?
He wants that as his legacy, and we're seeing the impacts of it here. I mean, it's just, you think we were having this discussion yesterday with all of the issues that you hear on the news every night. I'm talking about the world issues that tend to create some concern, and you lose a little bit of that secured feeling we've always had as residents and as a nation on what's going on around the world. It's a little scary. It's really frightening. Then to see some of the domestic issues that we have with the high drug use and all of that, and the joblessness, and then to think that through our own policies we're creating just an erosion of our basic industrial job base here. It's hard to put that all together. It's hard to compute all that.
It is. It's hard to understand that an intelligent person could actually believe that that's the right thing to do. We've become addicted to low price everything, and obviously that's why our Chinese market is so strong here. But I work with Tamarack, and everything's made in West Virginia. And I talk to people all the time. I say, well, it's too expensive up there. Hey, I hear more complaints about I can't find anything that's not made in China. You can go to Tamarack and you can find something that's not made in China.
It's right.
Made in West Virginia.
It's made in West Virginia. West Virginia.
I don't mean to put a plug in for Tamarack, but that's just the way it is.
It is.
And it's. But at any rate, the coal industry is. It's sad that it's struggling. I don't know what the short-range answer for it is. I suppose you just endeavor to persevere.
You
as
do,
they say.
and we've had a pretty strong export market. We export a lot of our coal. We still have some of the highest, finest quality of coal that you'll find anywhere in the world, and so we've been fortunate enough as a state to export coal around the world.
Right.
And we've really been able to capitalize on a lot of the growth that's been experienced in China and India. As their economies grow, the more power they need, the more steel they produce, the more cars they drive. And, that's good for metallurgical coal.
Right. It's a shame we don't have the steel production in this country.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. But one of the things that we experienced here too a couple of years ago, I mean, the whole world that produces coal, all the foreign countries, especially in places like Indonesia and Australia, they're major coal producers. And they have, like we have, they've ramped up their production to meet this demand in China and that whole Asian market. And, that market's not doing so well today. I mean, they are experiencing pretty rough times with their economy.
Right, they're
in fact, China's almost in an austerity or near collapse stage today with their economy, and so you have a lot of just as you have domestically, there's a lot of coal being produced on the international front. That was anticipating a market in China, which is no longer there. So we're seeing a real decrease in the amount of coal that we've exported to, which is, so we're getting hurt and squeezed on both sides, domestically and internationally right now.
That's too bad.
You just recently did a project in Morgantown.
Well, I
You
did that monument, yeah, it's at the Alumni Center. Again, like I say, it's one of the last things on my bucket list, so I'm happy to have gotten that done. And of course, as you're well aware, years ago, or several years ago, I did that monument at Marshall on the wall there. And that had a lot of significance for me too, because one of my freshman roommates